I would share my recipe for avoiding self-destruction, and certainly self-paralysis. And the tool I've found, which has proven to be the most reliable safety net for emotional freefall, is actually the same tool that has helped me to make my best business decisions, but that is secondary. And it is Stoicism. That sounds boring. You might not think of the ultimate competitor, say Bill Belichick, head coach of the New England Patriots. He has the all-time NFL record for Super Bowl titles. And Stoicism has spread like wildfire in the top of the NFL ranks as a means of mental toughness training in the last few years. You might not think of the founding fathers, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, George Washington, to name but 3 students of Stoicism. George Washington actually had a play about a Stoic. This was Cato, a Tragedy, performed for his troops at Valley Forge to keep them motivated. So why would people of action focus so much on an ancient philosophy? This seems very academic. And I would encourage you to think about Stoicism a little bit differently, as an operating system for thriving in high-stress environments, for making better decisions. And it all started here, kind of, on a porch. So around 300 BC, in Athens, someone named Zeno of Citium taught many lectures walking around a painted porch, a stoa, that later became Stoicism. And in the Greco-Roman worlds, people used Stoicism as a comprehensive system for doing many, many things. But for our purposes, chief among them was training yourself to separate what you can control from what you cannot control, and then doing exercises to focus exclusively on the former. This decreases emotional reactivity, which can be a superpower. And I bought a book on simplicity to try to find answers. And I did find a quote that made a big difference in my life, which was, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," by Seneca the Younger, who's a famous Stoic writer. That took me to his letters, which took me to the exercise, premeditatio malorum, which means the premeditation of evils. And in simple terms, this is visualizing the worst case scenarios in detail that you fear, preventing you from taking action so that you can take action, overcome that paralysis. My problem was monkey mind, super loud, very incessant. Just thinking my way through problems doesn't work. I needed to capture my thoughts on paper, so I created a written exercise that I called fear setting, like goal setting for myself. And it consists of 3 pages. Super simple. The first page is right here. What if I ... question mark. This is whatever you fear, whatever is causing you anxiety, whatever you're putting off. Could be asking someone out, ending a relationship, asking for promotion, quitting a job, starting a company, could be anything. In the first column, define, you're writing down all of the worst things you can imagine happening if you take that step. And you want 10 to 20. And then you go to the prevent column. In that column, you write down the answer to, what could I do to prevent each of these bullets from happening, or at the very least, decrease the likelihood, even a little bit. Easy peasy. Then we go to repair. So if the worst case scenario has happened, what could you do to repair the damage, even a little bit? Or who could you ask for help? So one question to keep in mind as you're doing this first page is, has anyone else in the history of time, less intelligent or less driven, figured this out? Chances are the answer is yes. The second page is simple. What might be the benefits of an attempt or a partial success? So you can see we're playing up the fears and really taking a conservative look at the upside. So if you attempted whatever you're considering, might you build confidence, develop skills, emotionally, financially, otherwise? What might be the benefits of, say, a base hit? Spend 10 to 15 minutes on this. Page 3. This might be the most important, so don't skip it. The cost of inaction. Humans are very good at considering what might go wrong if we try something new, say, ask for a raise. What we don't often consider is the atrocious cost of the status quo, not changing anything. So you should ask yourself, if I avoid this action or decision, and actions and decisions like it, what might my life look like in, say, 6 months, 12 months, 3 years? Any further out, it starts to seem intangible. and really get detailed. Again, emotionally, financially, physically, whatever. Those are the 3 pages, that's it, that's fear setting. And I can trace all of my biggest wins and all of my biggest disasters averted back to doing fear setting at least once a quarter. It's not a panacea. You'll find that some of your fears are very well founded, but you shouldn't conclude that without first putting them under a microscope. And it doesn't make all of the hard times, the hard choices easy, but it can make a lot of them easier. Easy choices, hard life. Hard choices, easy life. The hard choices, what we most fear doing, asking, saying, these are very often exactly what we most need to do. And the biggest challenges and problems we face will never be solved with comfortable conversations, whether it's in your own head or with other people. So I encourage you to ask yourselves, where in your lives right now might defining your fears be more important than defining your goals? Keeping in mind all the while the words of Seneca, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Thank you very much.